下面我们马上进行下面我们一个 CEO 的访谈的环节，携程的国际化征程。我先有请我们的主持人 Phocuswright 的创始人 Philip Wolf。Let's welcome Philip Wolf. Thank you very much.
She joined this small online travel company 12 years ago as CFO. At the time, the company was just 6 years old, had been listed on the NASDAQ stock exchange in the United States for 2 years. And for you financial types, it had a market capitalization of around $500 million US. Born in Shanghai, she was educated at Beijing University and then went to Florida in the United States to continue her education on scholarship. She also earned a law degree and then worked for 2 companies for 13 years in Silicon Valley. And after a very successful career in the United States, she picked up her family and returned to her roots. Now this company is absolutely a massive operation of amazing scale. The staff exceeds 33,000 people. And if you remember what I said, the market capitalization now is $29 billion US. And for those keeping counting, that's a 58 times increase under her tenure. Wow. Ladies and gentlemen, after another promotion 6 months ago, please welcome me in welcoming the CEO of Ctrip.com International, Ms. Jie Sun. Thank you. Jane, you know, I've run a few companies. A lot of people have run companies. But what's it like to run a company with over 30,000 people? I can't imagine.
Yeah, Ctrip has lots of employees. We have about 33,000 employees, and they're very young. The average age is only about 25 to 26 years old.
Wow.
So a lot of time, I feel like running a high school. Every year, we have 2 major meetings. One is the Chinese New Year. One is this upcoming week. It's a sports meeting. We invite all the grandparents, parents, children of our employees to join us. During the Chinese New Year meeting, our employee will have 200 performances, but in order to narrow it down to the finalists, we have to narrow it down to 20 performances. And lots of employees who were not selected would cry, and I will go down to the floor to calm them down. So it's a lot of time, it's motivating.
How many people attend this celebration?
Thousands. We have multiple locations. One major one for about 6,000 to 7,000 employees in Shanghai. Another one for about another 7,000 employees in Beijing.
And how would you say the culture at Ctrip has changed, or has it changed since you've been there from a $500 million to a $29 billion international company?
We want our company to have the spirit, the innovation, and innocence of a small company. But we also want Ctrip to have the discipline and focus as a big company. So what we do is, Ctrip is growing bigger. I used to know all the employees sitting on my floor, but now with 33,000 employees, I couldn't. But the culture needs to be still very lean, fast, and very move very very strong. So what we do is we implemented this Baby Tiger program. All the young employees on a monthly basis, they can bring to the executive members their business plan. And if we believe the business has a good future, we'll fund these business plan by empowering the business with a CEO, CTO, and a CFO. And these Baby Tiger programs really brings the dynamics and innovation.
How many Baby Tigers programs have there been?
More than 30 Baby Tiger programs.
And how are some of them doing today?
Oh, they're doing very well. Let me give you one example.
Separate businesses?
Separate businesses.
Yeah, what's the best example of a successful baby tiger?
Okay, so maybe I can give you an example of the Baby Tiger program. We have one CEO, very young, at the age about 27, 20 years old. He is very innovative. So 1 month he came in and he said, you know, James, I think bus industry is going to take off. I want to establish a business.
What year was that?
It was 2 years ago. 2 years ago. And we were like, bus, you only make 30 cents for a bus ticket. How can you make it profitable, right? Why don't you go back and think through them and come back again? So the second month, he came back again and says, I still believe my idea is a good idea, but the business model still didn't work. So by the time it's the third month, he came back with a business plan, and I asked him, how much resources do you need? And he said, I need 6 people, 6 months, 2 million RMB, which equivalent to about 300,000 USD. If by the end of the 6 months, my daily transaction exceeded 10,000 per day, you let me grow. Otherwise, you can shut me down. So on the spot, I said, deal. You get 6 people, 6 months, 2 million. Go run with it. So after 1 month, his daily transaction exceeded 10,000 per day.
So he hit in 1 month.
1 month.
What
And
he was
then
supposed to do in 6
last year,
months.
yes. And last year, he delivered 30 million transactions to our portfolio. So there are lots of successful stories as this one.
So does that have a name, that bus business?
Yeah, it's called Bus BU.
Bus BU. So in addition to investing a couple of $100,000 into Bus BU, Ctrip has made a few investments. I have a list here: China Eastern, Tujia, Hunting, Elong, Lee.com, MakeMyTrip, EI, Tunyu, EasyGo, on and on and on and on. What's the, I mean, every company does M&A, but what's the strategy behind all of these significant investments around the world?
Sure. Ctrip has a very disciplined investment strategy. We hold very high criteria for us to make a move. So basically, there are 3 criteria I keep on telling our investment team. The first one is any investment we make needs to be closely related to our core business, which is travel. A lot of people want us to buy a piece of land, buy a building. We're not interested in it, although we can make lots of money.
Has to be travel
related. The second one is the investment target needs to be number 1 or number 2 in their vertical. They need to stand alone, be very successful. So that's the second one. The third one, not only they are the leader, we also need to invest at the right time. So the valuation needs to be reasonable. So normally, as you know, number 1, number 2 are not for sale. And if you want to get a good price, it's very difficult. So what we need to do is being very patient.
Yes.
Wait for the right time.
And I lived that personally from the other side. I was a founding member of the board of directors of MakeMyTrip in India, and we welcomed you as an investor. And I think Ctrip holds about 10% of MakeMyTrip right now. One of the biggest acquisitions, mergers, of course, is after a couple of iterations. I think it was, I forgot the share transaction technicality, but now with Baidu you run Chunar, right? And revenue went way up. That was a very different culture with CC running it and a different business model. So what were some of the challenges of completing that transaction, and how is it working today?
We have very high respect for our competitors. Through the competition, both teams elevates their skills and competitiveness. So right now, it's working very well. Ctrip's brand mainly target at business travelers and high-end white-collar leisure travelers. Chunar's brand is very good with young students, young people, young professionals, and their platform is an open platform, so you can list all the products there. So it's a good complementary services.
So speaking of the meta search model, which is different than the OTA, online travel agency model, Of course, now Ctrip owns two, and Chunar and Skyscanner from Scotland. Priceline Group owns Kayak and recently Momondo. And of course, even though Trivago just went public, Expedia ostensibly controls that business. What happened in the marketplace where all of these meta-search players went from independent to now they're all owned by OTAs?
Meta-search has the advantage that they can scale very quickly because their model is very light. But every model has pros and cons. Because it's so light, they do not have the direct facility booking for the customers. So as a user, when you select a booking, you need to jump over to another site to finish
So you
your
think
booking.
owning that business makes that transition more seamless?
Smooth, yeah.
We certainly, I don't know if you're comfortable talking about TripAdvisor, another type of meta-search company, recently pivoted to instant booking. And by all indications, it was a disaster, so now they have to pull back. Were you surprised that instant booking did not work for TripAdvisor?
I think we are doing trial run for direct booking with Skyscanner. The first transaction went through much earlier than we expected. Originally, we planned to have the first transaction of the direct booking by the end of this year. But last week, the first transaction was through. So it moved much faster than we originally expected. So we will give it a test run. The reason we can do it is because we invested in a Skyscanner. So we feel our two companies are one entity. So engineers day in and day out are talking to each other. So that makes a difference.
That might suggest in the future that TripAdvisor can't stay as standalone, but we'll leave that for the analysts to predict. TripAdvisor leads us to the hotel category, and amazingly, companies like Hilton and Marriott Starwood run these million-dollar campaigns encouraging customers to bypass OTAs and book direct. Hilton's campaign is called Stop Clicking Around, of course, and Marriott, they've trademarked, quote, "It pays to book direct." What does it feel like being CEO of an OTA that gives these businesses millions of transactions a year and they spend money telling customers not to do business with you?
I think each model has its advantage and disadvantage. For hotels, they have inventory. So their membership is going to be really valuable because inventory for them is perishable inventory. It doesn't cost them so much. Buy 10, get 1 free. That's something as OTA you cannot afford. Our commission is very, very low, right? But the OTA model is very technology driven, information aggregation. It's a one-stop shopping platform. Particularly for Ctrip, we do not only have hotels, we have Airbnb model, accommodation, Groupon. In the transportation, we have air ticket, train, bus, ferry.
It doesn't bother you that they advertise to book direct?
Yeah, I think they will have their direct customer. That's maybe 20% of the customer. There is always 20% of the customer, 30% of the customer prefer to use OTAs. But there are common customers we can serve very well. So I think the good strategy is not focus on the difference, is how we can drive value for our customer and serve our common customers well.
Yeah. So you mentioned other sectors, so certainly ride sharing and cars and bicycle sharing are enormous here. So what's it like to compete in a marketplace where a company like Didi raises over $5 billion, successfully pushes out Uber in exchange for 17%? Does that change the way Ctrip has to operate against this marketplace?
Not really. I think because the travel industry is so hot, ever since I joined the company, every year there are newcomers, but many come, many left. It's just not as easy as it seems to be.
And now Didi is extending its leverage into bicycle sharing, and that race is also with OFO and I guess
Mobike.
Is that a big part of Ctrip's business, or do you think that will continue to operate somewhat separately?
Yeah, we made an investment in Mobike because we believe they will. It's a location-based device which identified.
Tencent's a big
yeah,
investor.
yeah, we invest with Tencent. We believe in the team. I think it will do very well.
I think Didi now has integrated into its mobile app that you can book rent an OFO. Is that?
Okay.
Do you think that's a trend of this vertical integration of the different travel sectors?
Yeah, in China, you will see there are lots of integration, particularly on WeChat. Every companies they invested in, they will have a list of icon there. The hotel icon is empowered by Elon and Ctrip on WeChat.
When you talk about WeChat, mobile applications are very difficult for a lot of Westerners to understand here. I mean, for example, WeChat is its own operating system, which we don't have in the West. So what kind of new innovation does Ctrip have to invest in this kind of environment to keep its mobile business healthy?
When we saw the huge opportunity in mobile, we used to have multiple mobile applications. We have one for hotel, one for air, one for leisure travel. But our belief is it's very easy in the PC world to open different windows and compare price. But it's not easy. Yeah, it's not very easy to open multiple apps to compare price. So what we decided very swiftly is to close all the single app and aggregate all the product in one. And it's very successful.
Is that what you're doing now?
Yeah, very successful.
And would you advise other companies to focus on integrating their different
in China, like WeChat is very integrated. Taobao also try to put different products in their places. So I think in China, in this market, it will work out well. In the rest of the world, sometimes it's different. If you look at the search box in China, it's so colorful. We have lots of informations. But if you look at Google, single box, very clean, right? So the user's behavior needs to be A/B tested.
And here at ITB China, you see a lot of destinations around the world. We had a nice chat with the head of Portuguese tourism, which reminds me, I think Ctrip just launched version 2 of your, the tour application with 4,000 specialists and 1,200 suppliers. Can you explain to the audience what that business is like at Ctrip?
You mean the offline?
It's called, let me look here, it's called your tailored travel platform.
Oh, okay. Tailored travel.
You have 4,000 specialists, 1,200 suppliers. I think it's
okay.
Custom.
Yeah, it's custom built.
Is
so
this
we
a big
have
part
online.
Of your strategy?
Yes. So we have 2 platforms. One is online, one is offline. The online version is destination based. So when you are in Portuguese, we have tour operators working over there. If you have emergencies, if you need recommendations for restaurants, local attractions, or if you need people to bring your passport from one city to another, our local tour operators through these platforms will be able to exchange our messages within each other. So that's the online platform. Offline platform is mainly to penetrate further into the 2nd tier and 3rd tier cities.
I'd like to maybe wrap up, see if I can get you to give the audience a piece of advice, especially the females that aspire to be leaders in business. What kind of advice could you give them?
I think as a female leader, it's the business world is open to you. As a female, we do have lots of advantages that we should feel very proud of, such as we are mostly very good team players. We are very good to consider the other side of the feelings. When there is a negotiation, we try very hard to strike for a win-win partnership. So all these strengths will make you to go a long way. And if we can focus on our strengths and also bring the team members which can complementary your areas that you need to improve on, then you have a very strong team.
It's been a pleasure speaking with you. Ladies and gentlemen, Miss Jie Sun. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.